All right, let's jump right in. What if I told you that the single biggest mistake most people make in business is actually trying to sell? I know, it sounds crazy, but today we're going to break down a really interesting growth model that flips that whole idea on its head. It's called the invitation strategy.
So let's really chew on this central idea for a second. Think about it. What if all that grinding, all that chasing and trying to convince people, everything we normally think of as sales, is actually the very thing holding you back? What if the secret was just to stop? It's a pretty wild claim for sure. So let's dig in and see what's really going on here.
Okay, so before we get to the solution, we've got to understand the problem this whole strategy is trying to solve. And the core argument is simple. The traditional way we're all taught to sell, well, for most of us, it's just broken.
And you can kind of see the two different paths laid out right here. On one side, you've got that traditional model, right? The grinding, the explaining, the constant convincing. The source material basically says this road almost always leads to frustration. And why? Well, let's be real. It takes a very specific and, honestly, a pretty rare kind of person to be good at that.
And that's exactly why it can feel so draining, right? The old way forces you into this box. You have to become a salesperson. It's all about hype and pressure, and it just feels, well, kind of gross and inauthentic. You're constantly chasing people, you're dealing with rejection, and you just end up frustrated. The whole point here is that this approach, it just wasn't built for normal people.
So, if selling is the big problem, then what's the solution? Well, here's where things get really interesting. It all starts with a total shift in your mindset. You've got to stop seeing yourself as a seller who pushes a product and start seeing yourself as an inviter who pulls people toward an idea. The source material uses this fantastic analogy, and I love it. Think of yourself as a movie trailer. Seriously, what's the job of a great trailer? Is it to tell you the entire plot, beginning to end? No way. Its only job is to get you curious enough to go buy a ticket. That's exactly the role of the inviter. Your goal is not to sell, it's just to spark a little bit of curiosity.
And this quote, this is basically the mantra for the entire strategy. Your job is not to explain, not to convince, just to get people to look. I mean, that just changes everything, doesn't it? It completely redefines what you're supposed to be doing. You're not the expert anymore. You're just the guide, the one who points the way.
Okay, a mindset shift is awesome, but how do you actually do it? What does it look like in the real world? Well, believe it or not, the entire strategy boils down to one single, super practical tool, a very, very specific script. And get this, the source claims that huge successful teams have been built using nothing more than this one simple, powerful question. It's designed to be incredibly easy to say and, most importantly, totally free of that salesy pressure we all hate.
And here it is. You ready? If I sent you a quick video, would you be open to watching it? That's it. That is the whole script. I want you to notice what it's not asking. It doesn't mention the product or the price or any details. It's just a simple, super low-stakes question that's all about asking for permission. So why does this simple little sentence work so well? Well, think about it. There's zero pressure, no hype. You're not selling a thing. The magic word here is permission. You're just asking if they're open to it. Without one question, you effortlessly sort out the people who are even a little bit curious from those who aren't. And the best part? You didn't have to do any convincing at all. Okay, this leads us to the next big piece of the puzzle. And honestly, this part is a huge relief. You, as the inviter, you don't actually have to do the heavy lifting. All the explaining, that gets outsourced to a system. And what's the system? It's that quick video we just mentioned in the script. This whole thing is about leverage. The source says it perfectly. You're no longer trying to be the expert, you're simply pointing people to a system that works. Think about that. All the pressure to have all the answers is just gone. Your only job is to be the friendly guide who points them toward the tool that does all the explaining for you. So the actual workflow here is about as simple as it gets. It's just 3 steps. Step 1, you send the invitation. Step 2, the system, that video, presents all the information. And step 3, the person decides for themselves. And the key thing here, the really important part, is that your job is basically finished after step 1. That's it. So you might be asking, why all this focus on making it so simple? What's the end game here? Well, it all comes down to one single powerful word, duplication. The entire system is built from the ground up to be easily copied by literally anyone. Now, this is a really fascinating idea from the source material. It argues that people don't really join because of the product. They join because of the process. Think about that. When someone sees a process for sharing something that is so simple they think, hey, I could actually do that.
That's when they're most likely to jump on board. And this is a great way to visualize it. Look at the bar for complex sales. The bar for duplication is super low because the effort required is sky high, right? Only a few top-tier people can pull that off. But the simple invitation, the bar is way up there. The argument is that the effort is so low, even a total beginner can do it successfully. And that, they say, is the real secret to explosive team growth.
So let's just wrap this all up. At its core, the philosophy is incredibly simple. Stop selling, start inviting. And then let a simple, duplicatable system do all the heavy lifting for you. And that really leaves us with one big question to chew on, doesn't it? Is this a genuinely revolutionary new process? Or is it a classic marketing funnel that's just been given a clever new name? Spark curiosity, send them to a tool that explains. Sounds familiar, right? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this breakdown.